This is episode 29 of the After Gambling podcast. In this episode, we'll discuss key points for discussion as we look at legalizing sports betting and really just expanding gambling in general. Hey there, and welcome to the After Gambling podcast. My name is Jamie. I'm a compulsive gambler, and I'm also the host of this show. The last time I gambled was July 15th of 2010. Now, this is sort of a special edition, one that I wanted to get out. It's not the typical Friday release because it's not really the typical episode. And this one, if you are a state representative, state senator, or any type of lawmaker and you're tuning in to listen to this episode, welcome. I'm glad that you found this. Hopefully somebody shared it with you. And I'll try and keep it brief, and we'll focus on really what the key points I believe are that we need to be discussing as we look at introducing kind of legislation that expands gambling. Obviously, sports betting being the hot topic right now, but in general, just expansion of gambling. So first of all, for those that are new, I just want to stress that I'm not some anti-gambling zealot. Yes, gambling, as I mentioned in the opener, I haven't gambled in 8 years, and gambling really has impacted every day of my life in a negative way for 15 to 18 years. So even just in recovery now with 8 years, I still every day face the negative kind of consequences and the fallout from what I did almost a decade ago, and in many cases over a decade ago. And so you can imagine I wouldn't be heartbroken if gambling just disappeared off the face of the earth. But I'm also realistic, and I'm realistic that this is going to come. And so I want to make sure that we get legislation that is as effective as possible for everyone involved. And so that's really my focus. My focus is on awareness, it's on protection, and it's on treatment, and making sure that those things are available for everyone. And I think that's something that we can all take this opportunity with the expansion to introduce new products that people want because people want them. But at the same time, we can also get it right on the legislation side to make sure that we use this as an opportunity to say, hey, we're going to expand this, but did you know that there is this problem? There are these treatment programs out there even. And also to make sure that we're protecting the customer. And I know that's something that's a hot button topic, and everybody says, hey, we're going to do this to get rid of the illegal market. Well, I'm going to kind of hold you to the fire and say, yes, let's put more protection in place. And so, like I said, it's a great opportunity to get things right. And hopefully my goal and your goal is just to make things better for the next generation. I was part of the poker wave in the early 2000s, and I think gambling was very new, especially on the internet. And so some of these things weren't in place yet, but I think we have a better idea. We can create protection so we don't have that whole second generation, or it's not the second, just the latest generation to deal with the fallout from gambling. And like I said, the protection goes for the people that want to gamble and as well as the people that don't want to. So we're going to protect the people that choose to gamble by putting it in a safe place, but also protecting those that don't want to gamble or those that are trying to quit. And a lot of that is kind of focusing, I think we can focus on the predatory nature of some of the games and design them not to be so predatory. And I think if you look into it and you start researching things like the near miss and losses disguised as wins, just the overall game design of these games are so sophisticated and go well beyond kind of the slot machine games or the card games of old to really create something that kind of plays upon our current habits that we have with social media and other things to really create a product that is addicting. And so I think that's something that we really need to focus on. And now I also know I hear a lot, and I heard it kind of all last week at the National Conference on Problem Gambling, that legislators oftentimes, and I understand that you're dealing with competing issues, right? You have different things. And so the pushback is, well, we have bigger fish to fry. And I just want to point out that gambling has the highest suicide rates of all addictions. So I know there are bigger fish to fry, and I mean, issues that impact more people, but I would just challenge you to realize that gambling is extremely serious. This is a life or death situation. I know personally I've dealt with suicidal thoughts, and believe me, you do not want your family to be on the road next to me as I'm driving home from the casino and I'm thinking, maybe I should just end this by driving the car off the road. Because we became a danger for everyone, not just ourselves. And I also just want to say, I mean, yes, it doesn't seem like it's a big issue because there aren't that many people that speak out. But I can say personally, the shame and stigma is so daunting. It's been 8 years and I'm just now feeling comfortable with sharing my story, mostly in an anonymous platform like this podcast. So there's so many of us, and people call it the silent addiction, and we suffer alone. Our spouses don't know. Nobody knows. We're the only person that knows that we have this big dark secret and this growing just monkey on our back that is just dragging us down. And so because you can't smell it on our breath and you can't see the physical signs of it, it doesn't mean that it's not there. And it's just one of those things that people aren't coming forward to talk about it. And obviously that kind of isolation is part of what leads to such a high suicidal rate. And then also beyond just the problem gambling, that 1 or 2%, you have a large population. And I know there's a lot of research right now that's looking at gambling harm. And so just kind of, hey, have you had negative impacts on your life from gambling? And those numbers are much, much, much larger. I know in one study it was, I think, 7 out of 10 participants stated that they had gambling harm. And so maybe they aren't compulsive gamblers or don't have gambling disorder yet, but it is a progressive illness and they'll probably get there at some point. But we have this huge population that's saying, hey, it's impacting my work. It's impacting my life, my relationships. But it's just not to the point where we're defined in that 1 or 2%. So I think it's a big issue that we need to look at. The next point I want to make is just volunteering personally as a resource for you. I know this is, like I said in the last thing, that there's so much shame and stigma that it's hard to really get kind of the true story from compulsive gambling point of view. I think everyone else has a lobbyist or a special interest or kind of a voice at the table, but oftentimes it seems like the compulsive gambler, the people that are in recovery, are the last ones to get a seat at the table. So hopefully, if you need to reach out to someone, I can be that resource. And I think going forward, we all need to discuss things, because I think if we can all sit down, we'll get a complete 360 view of the topic. And the more that we have that 360 view, I think the more that we can create successful legislation that works for everyone. And we won't leave somebody out and say, oh, wait, yeah, maybe we should have thought about that earlier on. And I brought up the point that, hey, nobody can think like we think. And so I know I was on a panel last week, and one of the centers had a great plan with a database that would identify problem gamblers. But my thought instantly was, wow, that's going to push people to illegal gambling. I didn't want to be tracked. And most gamblers that are kind of trying to isolate aren't going to be tracked. And so some of these things you can't think about. You don't understand the point of view from the gambler. And so that's some place that we can definitely help you out. And I know personally I can also help out because I collect stories. And I'm not tooting my own horn here, but I would challenge, or not challenge, but I would say that there probably aren't too many people on the planet that on a day-to-day basis over the last year have had more involvement from a nonprofit. I don't profit from this, it's just for the good of humanity, of discussing and chatting and trying to help other compulsive gamblers through their struggles. And many times these are kids as young as 12 and 14, typically a lot like in the 18 to 26 range. But in talking to them, I think I have a pretty good pulse of gambling and understand all the issues as it comes from the compulsive gambler. So I think I can be a great resource for you to help you out and understand what's coming next. Things like skins, things like esports and gaming, which aren't really the typical cards and even sports betting or slots of the old, but these are the things that our kids are starting to gamble on more and more. And that's we need to really expand our view of what gambling is. Because again, when we start to look at that bigger picture, it makes a whole lot more sense to devote more resources to this issue. My next point is just let's learn from others. We don't need to create the wheel. The wheel is already out there, and we can look to places like the UK where they've had sports gambling for 60 plus years legalized. And we can learn from the good and the bad of what's going on over there. And so I think that's one thing I would just encourage you, do some research, look at other countries, look at how they've done things, what things have worked in their legislation, what haven't. Because I get the feeling that we're trying to create something from scratch, and that just, we don't need to. We can learn from other people. We don't have to kind of fall on our face on our own. And then my final point is I just want to say that a couple of the ideas or things to consider on that kind of realm of prevention and treatment and awareness. The first one is just, I think legislation should really look at limitations. I think one of the Nordic countries just introduced a max loss for an individual per year so that they can not go over a certain number. Because that's one of the things that's so devastating about gambling is that you can do unlimited damage in a very, very small amount of time. I mean, you can impact future generations of your family financially in overnight. And that's something that's very different than other addictions. And so we need to look at maybe having max losses. I mean, I know the credit card companies aren't going to give me a credit card without looking at my finances and telling me how much they're going to be willing to allow me to spend. And yet with gambling, we can kind of pour in as much money as possible. And many times a lot of the online stuff, kids are able to devote money for 2 to 3 days before the operator realizes, okay, this is a 16-year-old. I can't accept any more money from them. And actually, Dr. Jeff Davensky spoke at the conference last week, and he talked about an online form where you put in your age, and if you put in too young, then it said, "Are you sure this is your age?" and allows you to correct it and be of legal age. And so that was just one thing that kind of struck me as interesting. But I do think we need to look at limitations. We have limitations on alcohol. You can't get alcohol 24 hours a day, and certain strengths are restricted. I know here in Ohio, we're just kind of up the limit on beer to be stronger proof, a stronger percentage of alcohol in the beer. And so if we have these things on other things, why do we have, unlimited access to gambling? Sudafed's another one. I had a cold and I have to go and I have to give them my license and sign in a log and do all these things to get a 24-pack of Sudafed. But again, I can take every dollar I have right now and put it on the Browns to go undefeated next year, which, yes, hopefully that would be, we were going to win some games, but that's not a good decision, I don't think, regardless of what you think the outcome is. So having some limits in place, I think, is something we definitely need to look at. And then the second half of things to consider for legislation are obviously the advertising and marketing practices. This is my background, advertising and marketing, and the introduction of smartphones for gambling is going to be kind of game-changing in a lot of ways. But we also need to look at free play and bonuses that aren't really free. A lot of the sites, if you don't know, if you put in $100, maybe they'll give you a free $100 matching. But then you have to gamble 50 times, in some cases, your deposit in order to free up any of the money, not just the free money, but to get out even the $100 that you put in. And so that's one thing we should look at. And then obviously the kids. In the UK, they've looked at, they have the sports logos on uniforms, and they're taking them off now because, it doesn't make sense to have the gambling sites on these 10 and 12-year-olds' jerseys of their favorite sports people. So that's one thing. And then I'll say kind of the other thing is just kind of the Joe Camel 2.0 from the tobacco industry, where Joe Camel was designed to appeal to younger kids. And I think with a lot of the games, they're going to be designed like the Candy Crushes, like these smartphone games that definitely appeal to kids. And so we need to really kind of make sure that we have legislation in place that looks at that and make sure that we do stuff that is in the best interest of everybody, and that the advertising and marketing campaigns aren't predatory in nature. Because I know, it wouldn't take too much data in order to figure out when somebody gets paid on their paycheck based on their deposits, and then you could send them an email ahead of that and really become very predatory in getting somebody addicted to the game. So I think we need to look at the marketing and advertising, put some limitations in place to protect the consumer. And so that's it. I'm going to wrap this up. We'll keep this under 15 minutes. You can reach me. Again, my name is Jamie at aftergambling.com. You can listen to other episodes of the podcast. You can find me on any of the social media platforms at After Gambling, on Twitter, on Instagram, have a Facebook page. And I'll also put together kind of a quick little notes on this, some highlights, so you can have that for talking points. But by all means, use me as a resource, and I look forward to chatting with you again with the goal of getting this right, we're going to introduce legislation. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. Let's make sure that we do it right. Let's look back and be historically correct and say, you know what, we took a little bit more time, a few extra months, but we listened to everyone and we really understood the pros and cons of the issue in order to bring out legislation that was effective as possible. That, like I said, introduces the new product offering to people that want it while also protecting kids and compulsive gamblers and people that are kind of borderline problem gamblers and experiencing gambling harm. So, like I say, let's all be historically correct, because that's the most important thing, to be right in the long term, rather than just kind of being right today. So let's all kind of shut up and listen to each other a little bit more and, do something good. See ya. Thanks for listening.